My name is Kabu Ma'at. I'm in for the man himself, Mutabaruka. He'll be back with you next week. We got a lot to get through, but just before we hit the button of all of that, I just want to hear up my brethren on the phone line, Kalanji himself, Sizzler Kalanji. How you doing, my brethren?
Blessed respect.
Greetings, man. Good to talk to you. Just now, I actually was listening into the buzz, and I know that you are slated to be on the Big Bad Show. Liberty Promotions presenting the Blue Hole River Splash, Panda River, Panda Bank. I'm a laugh, but I'm also a laugh on the air. But so you're slated to be on this show, Sizzler. Give me some background to it.
Well, actually, in the Liberty, Virgin, doing this thing for a long while. Apparently, it's a real put together show, and they're doing the promotion. And Ulteriors, that era, part of the world, I guess I'm doing one of my first biggest stage show, White River Reggae Bash with Luciano.
Somebody did that door, Kalandra. Yeah, the Big Bad Show. So
the same spirit, same way we bring the people, the foundation, I work the same way.
And Liberty's also on the line. Greetings, my brethren.
Good evening.
Yeah, man, how you doing?
Big up. Everything I bless, man. Big yourself.
Yes. I know you went through some. You actually laid out the line out a while ago. Blue Hole is a place that it was a people's place. It looked like so much a people's place, but the show here that is going to be there is actually telling us something different. So talk to us about why that venue, Blue Hole, which is now the people them kind of fight for.
It's a Blue Hole of a Central Lodge, my place, my time. My way, my river.
Yes.
Yes, I'm a Donald girl. I'm the king of this up. I'm going to be the next king of the which is Sizzler.
Yes.
So it's a big thing.
Yes.
It's what I said. You see some more, all of my people have come out.
Yeah.
Because my brother Sizzler got there.
Yes.
You see the whole parties have got there. Luciano, Tibet, Mighty General, Papa Jack. That's why I catch some up like Fire George, my brethren. So I said, little people are born if I do not chat. A whole of people have got there. Ricky Trooper, Kilimanjaro.
Yeah.
It
sounds like the right thing. Yes, Sizzler.
Yes. Always. And for them to stay shows, Sizzler is there.
Yes. And so from Sizzler, the community is going to be there. So we're looking forward to that. It's a little while that you perform in other areas, Sizzler? It's a little while, don't it?
Yeah, it's been a while.
So we're looking forward to that performance coming up. Once again, the date?
This coming Saturday, the 11th. Yes, Sizzler will be there. We got Junior Cat, Lucian, and the whole crew. Respectable artists. Like I said before, it's a well put together show. And we need more things like these ever since the pandemic. People been getting how to do their best concerning make that domestic life be upheld. That their family and loved ones to look about. This is a very beautiful day and a day like this in Ulteriors and the river. Blue Hole, so you don't know, it's a place where people really are different. Because they can look around. You see that people losing the beaches, they're losing the shores.
Yes.
Of the country. So persons take in consideration that they got to hold on to something.
Yes.
And holding on to something like this, that's really attractive for overseas citizens concerning tourists and other respectable persons. Really good.
Yeah, man.
And we, the citizens of the country, need to have more ownership into things like these, more lands with water, springs, beaches, and all those stuff. Because we are cultural people. We do music, and the people like to have an excursion in their one country. So we need places like these. So seeing the Rastafari family in that part of the world and other respectable families in that part of the world, keeping up the banner of Rastafari and righteousness, keep that touch afloat. It's really good, and we want to commend Liberty to do this thing, because you must have a Sunfest, you have a Sting, you have a Rebel Salute, same way we have that Liberty Fest, on the Rep on the Bank.
Sounds good.
On the Rep on the Bank. It's another artist, tagline for them. Sang that, so well, this is our country. We have to enjoy what we do what we do best, and support the people as the people support you. So big up all of my fans, and years have been supporting me, and any stage show me and the people support me, whether them can reach physically or not, So be there.
It's a good look. Sound good, look good, the lineup wicked. It is going to be, I think, one of the biggest shows in the region. It sound good.
Especially in that region.
Yeah, man.
People have been longing for that.
The lineup will look good. So see you on the 11th. Thank you so much, Liberty. Good lineup. Thank you for foregrounding Blue Hole in the way that you're foregrounding Blue Hole. It is necessary for us to do that. So great work.
That's right.
Yeah, man. Thank you both.
Just remember that the procedure we're going to be giving back to the inner city public school, I needed more starting with Newstead School. You understand? So it's like going to the whole 14 parish, like I have a whole inner city school that needs some help and so. So I might proceed with definitely going back to the public school. I needed more starting with Newstead School. We have exchange and we have go try and so on and so on. And, you know, so that's,
and speaking about that, because that's brilliant. Speaking about that, what's the admission?
The admission is 2,000 early bird, 3,000 to get, 6,000 to
All right, brilliant. Thank you so much. Thank you, Sizzler. Thank you so much, Liberty. Give thanks. Yeah, man, William. Give thanks. Drag eye. All right, so remember Liberty Promotions presenting Blue Hole River Splash, Panda River, Panda Bank. It is March 11. Showtime is 3 o'clock sharp. You heard them. Sizzler Kalonji will be there. Luciano will be there. Mikey General, Pizza Little Hero, Admiral Tibet Chezidek. Looks like it's gonna be one of those days. You're inside of the cutting edge.
Each one who hears this song tonight, trust I and I. Right? Lord, bring this message to you from a place of purity, from a place of understanding. To live and feel these experiences will get locked out. So we are bringing the truth to you that we are locked out.
What do you
spread
perplex?
the word so people understand it. So that's the advocacy.
Yes.
And the education. So what we are pulling now is the litigation piece of it. Where we are using the instruments of the court to pull the government to the court, to pull the private sector ones that will block us out from these places into the court and shine a spotlight on it to say you are wrong and this is my right, don't trample upon it. And trust that the court will recognize our right to our national treasure and let us gain access to it. So that is the litigation piece of it. The other solution to the problem is going to be political. Not partisan, but political.
Yes.
And so legislation is going to have to pass that give us general rights.
They control everything.
The
The school,
general rights to
Yes.
access
the court.
beaches and use the sea. So
Yes.
those are the different parts of it that we have to pull together.
Yes.
We have to push the legislative part. So therefore, the ones them out there have to really get political savvy. You're going to have to look at the issues and you're going to have to force the system to respond to these issues that matters to you. Just as our teachers are really standing up and saying that, we need a livable wage.
Yes.
We have to stand up to say that we need access to our spaces.
Yes.
Okay, as Damon said, we need common ownership.
Yes.
And the legislation must change. And we use the litigation and we use the advocacy. Don't sit down, get up. And
People power.
this position costs money. So we're going to have to have some of our wealthy individuals them who in Jamaica who are our people, or if you're a friend of Jamaica, help us to pay for lawyers, help us to pay for advocacy. We need to move things and people across the country. You see what we're doing in Bob Marley Beach and what we're doing in Winifred. And what we're doing Blue Lagoon. These things cost us to really get them done.
Yes.
So we need all players on the ground. You don't necessarily have to come in the street and march with us, but you can help support us in many different ways. You can do so. There's a role for every Jamaican.
So
So
what-
you them in the schools.
Yes.
And we need to test these places too. Test them. Try to go to these gates and these places and say, I'm a Jamaican and I'd like to get to the beach.
Yes.
Can I walk over this land?
Test them,
See what
test
they
them.
say.
And this is why it's really, even though we were locked out, even though the police were heavily armed against us last week, Mr. Card, this is why I think it was a success, because what it did was to show us the extent of the problem, and then also to re-energize us to continue to do what it is that we need to do to free these spaces up. Now, let me ask you quickly, what's the next step with Blue Lagoon, quickly?
The next step is to verify the cruiser authority that the mayor claimed that he signed. There's a conflict between the mayor and the CEO. The CEO says she closed down, the municipality closed down the commercial business on the lagoon. And then it was only the night before the protest that the mayor says, well, the municipality closed down the road. However, there was a councillor from the municipality who was there on the ground. You
Yes,
heard it,
yes.
Mr. Dexter Roller.
Yes.
And he said he don't know anything about that. He did not even know that the Blue Lagoon Road was closed.
Yeah.
So here we have our representative. It's not his division. However, they are supposed to do things as a body. And here it is saying, well, I didn't even know that rule was smooth. And I don't, that cannot be done out of chambers.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a lot going on here.
Right, so there's a lot to investigate, and I suppose that the next time we speak we'll probably hear a little bit more, because it seems as if now the PEA that you have determined ownership of who ownership was transferred to, from whom to who, and you said it was transferred from?
It was transferred from Mr. Leachin to Mr. Adam Stewart. However, how did Mr. Leachin get control of lands, those lands in the Blue Lagoon? It is a...
So that's a question asked to be answered. So let us...
That's a big question, because...
But let us leave the question right there, because we're very close onto defamation. So let us leave it there to find out how did he acquire the lands, and then now they are being transferred to someone else, which is what Portland Environmental Action has found out. We'll continue this, Mr. Carr. We're going to stay on this, and I hope that whenever you have new information, that you'll reach out to us. And I know that you're working closely with JABEM. This is now part of the project that JABEM is also has included in the wider JABEM projects, right, Devon?
Yes, we are in full collaboration with the Portland Environmental Action Group, and so we support them. I mean, in whatever they decide to do, they are doing a lot of advocacy work.
Mm-hmm.
Rio Grande water rights. I mean, a lot of environmental work that has been done by this grassroots group, and so we're happy to collaborate with them. But I also say
we have half a second, Devon. Yes.
Yes. Well, if they don't open the Blue Lagoon up, then we're back in the streets.
All right. And the next step with Little Duns River
Back
is
in the street too.
we're back in the streets and also in the courts.
Yes, and in the street and to the court, because we need to get that lock off.
We're
All
going
right.
to fight till thy kingdom come.
There you go.
And thank you very much for always supporting us and always there with us.
Thank you
Right
so
through.
much.
And it's not now from a long time.
I read for life.
Thank you so much, my brother. Thank you.
Thank
Yes.
you for being there with us the other day, and for the support they're getting from Sabine.
Yes.
And from the whole nation at this time, and international support as well.
All right, brilliant. Let us see where this goes, this illegal affair, this torrid affair between the state, the private sector, the
Sabotage.
politicians, the business class, and sometimes, in some cases, civil society. It is untenable. We're going to have to break the back of this apartheid. Thank you so much.
And the
Thank you so
MP is
much.
missing in action.
All right. Well, we check on that too, because this was something that we were looking at. Thank you so much, Devon. Thank you so much, Damian. Thank you so much, Mr. Carr.
Thank you very much.
Great.
All right. Thank you also from Little Duns River in the studio, Karen Reed, Clive Ivy. Thank you for coming in. Ricardo Reed, Marvin Dunn, Gosford Miller. Umi, I left out nobody. All right.
Respect.
Thank you so much.
Respect, Sister Cabo.
Give thanks.
Thank for the moment. Give thanks.
Give thanks, Time and IRFM. So the teachers are revolting. Delegates of the Jamaica Teachers Association today rejected government's compensation package. This happened at the JTA Special Conference at the Michael University College today. 578 delegates voted. 346 voted to reject the offer. 227 voted to accept. 1 ballot was rejected, 4 ballots spoiled. I just want to put my thing out there clear, just to say I stand with the teachers. Who feels it knows it, Jah? I stand with the teachers. And I know, because I hear some rumblings that every time the teachers are betrayed, and we've been covering this for a while, the teachers are always betrayed. And I guarantee you that they will be betrayed again. And it is sad that we have to say that in this space this evening, but that is what is going to happen. I say to the teachers, that I say to the teachers that, the JTA is becoming irrelevant. The JTA is becoming irrelevant. over the years, the JTA has found itself in a position where it is not necessarily properly representing the teachers. My name is Kabu Ma'at Kiru. I said what I said. Who feels it knows it, John? So a resolution has been passed for the withdrawal of services, which will lead to the shutdown of schools island-wide. This is the only thing that we fear, because we don't want to see the schools shut down again. So if we could have found a way to do it that we don't have to lock down the schools. But they only listen when we protest, and that's the problem. Just now, but we're going to go to Sister P, Pauline Pettinor, educator, on the phone lines. Talking about one of the women in the Pan-African movement who is a mother of the Pan-African movement, an advocate, an activist, someone who is a mother to so many of us and a sister in the movement. Also a former educator and still an educator, a former accountant. Sister P has done it all. Sister P? Sister P?
Greetings.
You know, I know where Muta is tonight, he must be saying to himself, but watch them now, my two favorite people.
You know, I heard you talking about the teachers, and I have to say, I have done many things, but teaching is the hardest.
Sister P. And when you put it that way, because let our listeners understand, you know, that when you say teaching is the hardest, you're talking about somebody who for many years operated a school. You owned and operated a school in Portland. And so you understand this from many different levels. What do you think about what you hear happening, especially with these salary negotiations, the wage negotiations, Sister P?
It is sad that the government has let it get to the point of where teachers have to withdraw their services. But I'll tell you something, teaching is not just about the classroom. It's about, you know, it's taking care of the children, their needs, their emotional needs, and then ensuring that what you're teaching them is really getting through to them. It's hard work. It's, you know, you take it well. I took it personal.
Yes. Yeah. And I too, because Sister P, you know, just over the years, and we've been watching the teachers over the years. During COVID, they were asked to hold strain. We were all asked to hold strain. But they were some of the hardest workers during COVID. Remember that, Sister P? Remember that?
But they weren't even trained to do this online teaching.
They had to find ways and means. Some teachers all up on house top trying to get Wi-Fi. They had to find ways and means to ensure that our children were still being reached, even without the necessary help, I think, from, well, there was some help from the ministry, but not enough, because we remember what the teachers went through. And then years before that, they were also asked to hold strain again. And we saw when they were betrayed many years ago. I know I fell out seriously with one of the presidents of the JTA because I said that he betrayed the teachers in the middle of the negotiation. Because what I find, Sister B, and I know as an educator, somebody who owned a school, had to deal with teachers, the tribalism in the schools, though, the political tribalism, where teachers are betrayed in these wage negotiations because of political connection. What's your thinking on that, JLP or PNP, depending on who the leaders are?
Well, I can tell you something. You know, as president of the Titchfield PTA, that's where you see the politics. That's where you absolutely see the politics. From the chairman of the board, and then, you know, in my position and knowing who I am, and to see that some of the teachers, the same teachers that you would fight for, you see, this is a two-way thing sometimes. The fact that I have here on my head, or the fact that I'm Rastafari, some teachers couldn't deal with that. You know, so you have that sort of politics also. But I don't know. You're talking about the JTA. And you are. Some of these organizations are irrelevant at this point.
Yes.
You know, this is a different generation. It's not like in my time going to school. It's a different generation. Teachers have to deal with, I mean, look like we have students fighting teachers, children behaving in all kinds of ways, you know. It's a different thing. So
when they go to school, they're going to a battlefield. They're going to war.
They're going to war.
Yes.
And they need to be compensated for not only teaching,
Yes.
but for going to war.
Yes, and you know, one of the things that really got home to me when I heard the teacher saying, we want a livable wages, livable salary. That word livable made such a difference this time around, because we all know that what the teachers are getting, and not teachers and public sector workers, but teachers are being foregrounded right now, that this is not a livable wage, you know. They can barely make two ends meet. And now we're hearing that and this is good news, by the way, that the minimum wage is going to be increased. That is good news. But can you imagine the domino effect? Because already what the teachers are carrying home are very close to minimum wage. So you're going to find a teacher with children who has to have somebody in the environment, in the home, that you're paying minimum wage. But really, it will be cheaper for the teacher to stay home and take care of her children or his children than to pay the minimum wage. This is a crisis, isn't it, Sister P?
It is a crisis, and the thing about it is that some of the very good teachers have left the profession.
Yes.
Or they have migrated.
Yes, and we find...
And that is a sad part.
I saw
and, you know, I know young people overseas that are science teachers, math teachers. You can't get them to come back to Jamaica.
It is a shame and a disgrace.
And they're excellent at what they do.
Yes.
Because one of them even just interned at NASA.
Oh,
but
goodness.
you know, you couldn't tell her to come back here to work under these conditions.
Yeah, and you talk about patriotism, but how is she gonna live or he gonna live? This is the issue that we have to face. The Minister of Finance, he's committed to the neoliberal agenda. He's rolling that out as if there's no tomorrow. And you notice when he's presenting the budget, his budget presentation, a budget presentation that is supposed to be a serious, calm, objective kind of thing. Why is he dancing and performing and prancing around? He's really just trying to distract us. And this is what I think personally, that he's gaslighting the nation. I think that our backs are against the wall to the point now where there really is no turning back. So you're seeing this in the public sector, you're seeing this with the access to the beaches, you're seeing this in so many different areas. The cutting edge on the phone lines, Pauline Pettinor, Sister P, Pan-Africanist, broadcaster, educator, and on this International Women's Day, we're having a farmer. You know, we're going to come right to farmer, you know, Sister P, because when you talk about, you know, for us, sometimes we when you have a day, we spend some time on it, but for us, really, every day is what it is. And so that the focus on women should really be every day. It's Women's History Month. So we just want to lay that out there and to say that we understand that this is not a one-day thing, and especially for you, which is one of the reasons that I wanted to talk to you, because for you have been concerned over the years, and as a Pan-Africanist, about this very thing that you raised just now, food security. How do we feed ourselves? How do we protect ourselves? And even when we talk, especially when we're talking about women on this day, which is International Women's Day, what do you think, Sister P, is a role of women in any discussion or action on food security generally?
But, you know, first I must say that a lot of times that we're talking about food security, women are left out of it. Mm-hmm. Women are left out of the conversation. Mm-hmm. And, you know, living in rural Jamaica, I mean, I didn't even realize that women were such an integral part of, I've seen these elder women with the pickles, you know, with the machete. Mm-hmm. Sure, I had to join them because I couldn't look like a real Kingstonian, you know, so I learned. But this whole thing about food security in one sense, but the amount of fertilizers and chemicals that is being used on the food that is being produced, it's almost as if that is not. It's almost as if it is not even food.
So food security is more than ensuring that there is enough food, and we have to define food in these times. But also to ensure that the food that says we talk about food security is food security and safety. That these two things have to go hand in hand. And then this will take us to how do you farm and what are you using? Because obviously you talk about the unhealthy ways and the measures that we're using to farm. But this is what is recommended, Sister P, by the international agencies and by government and so on. So how do we get around that?
Well, that's what happens when you're not an independent nation. That's what happens, and you have to depend on outside sources to be funding you and telling you what it is that you have to do. But everybody can have at least some little something in their backyard.
Yes.
Some things like little pak chow, you know, okras, little pepper, any little thing that you can put in a pan. You know, you have all of even these plastic bottles. Cut them, put some dirt in there, plant something in them. It's I don't know the price of things. Right now, I saw some what was it, broccoli, $1,000 a pound.
Wow.
And you know that it wasn't even grown in Jamaica, and the cauliflower was $800 a pound.
Wow.
Now I have grown broccoli when I was on the farm.
Yes.
And you know, well, you know the farm.
Mm-hmm,
You have been there.
Yes, yes.
Yes. All you have to know is the time of year when you plant certain things. We know that certain things will not come at certain times of the year because a lot of farmers depend on rainfall. Another thing too is the fact that a lot of farmers are producing things that are just specifically for export. And I have a problem with that. Because the same farmers that are farming the cocoa and the pumpkin and these things that are put on the trucks and then exported, they turn around and go and buy tin mackerel.
And you see, this is why the conversation I think is very, very important for us, because then you talk about health and healthy living, but it is what it is what we have come to. What we are addicted to, what we like, so that vegetables, which are healthier, it's not something necessarily that you know, it's something that even the farmers who are farming it are putting on their tables. So then, where is the lack? Is there miseducation, lack of education in terms of the knowing? Because we are farming to some extent, but if we're not eating what we're farming, if we're not eating what we're growing, but we're eating imported food, then where does that leave us health-wise?
I'll give you a for instance. In the parish of Portland, they used to plant rice over here. And I remember interviewing a certain individual who told me a few years ago, oh yes, we're going to go back to planting rice and so. I haven't seen that. That's probably about 10 years ago. I don't think that there is any need for Jamaica to be importing rice.
Right.
That's a big thing.
I think one of the things is to be, and maybe you can help us understand it, because, you know, so we're farming to standard, and the standard is the Codex Alimentarius. So you farm to standard. So even rice is going to have to be farmed to the standard that Bill Gates and him brethren them say. And it's the same thing happened with the ganja, because now they tell you that our ganja, it's substandard, because you have to farm to the Codex Alimentarius, which is redefining everything, even food, because they have redefined food. So the question then is, if we're farming to standard, which is other people's standard, how do we balance it though? And even as farmers farm for export, because you cannot farm for export without farming to standard.
It's the whole mentality. The population needs to be re-educated. The population needs to be re-educated to understand the whole thing about economics. Because we have never been taught economics. We don't think about the fact that when we import $32 million worth of red peas, because we have to have red peas, when in fact something like cold peas, you just throw one out there, and in the next how long you have a whole van with cold peas, and you have enough cold peas that you can make a Sunday dinner. It's something, the whole thing about economics and food security, it is totally missing. It is totally absent. Why are we importing red peas? You can hardly find anybody who is planting red peas. And when you do get some, that you have to put them in the fridge, like I put them in the fridge.
How do you then, so because you know we talk about seeds and so on, because it seems to me as if there's also another issue which you raised earlier in the conversation, which is how we're farming, right? The safety and security, one thing. So we're using Roundup, for example, as weed killer, but Roundup not just kill the weed, it also kills the soil, which means that once you've reaped the crop once or twice from that land, you'll never be able to grow anything on that land again, no matter how much seed you have, unless you get that seed from Bill Gates and him friend them from Monsanto and Bayer and so on, and they have the patent. you see the point I'm trying to make here, Sister P, is that what are we losing in this process?
There is another. Okay, things like compatible farming. People don't know that. I think the ancestors, they knew that because they didn't have Roundup and they used to plant in the same place. Because things like if you plant a root crop this year, you can't plant a root crop next year. You have to plant something above the ground.
Yes.
You have to plant things that are compatible so that the same insects that you are going to spray for, when you do compatible farming, you don't need to be spraying for that because these different plants deter different insects.
So we can go. So the idea then is to go back. It's Sankofa. Go back and fetch it. Go back to what we knew. Go back to the old ways. Do it the way that our ancestors did it. Do it the way that our foreparents do it. For many different reasons. Not least of all is that Roundup is also carcinogenic. So it's going to give you cancer and it's going to kill you. This is just how it is. We've gone through the scientific discussions regarding Roundup over many years and up to recently. So, we don't have no time for that this evening. I'm so sorry. We don't have a time to go through the sciences.
The scary part is
yes.
that the farmers are not using masks or anything when they're spraying with all of this stuff.
I know, but Sister P, I think they're getting, they're getting the information. I saw a farmer the other day, I'm jogging and I stopped. I saw him with a thing on his back and I stopped and I said, I hope that is not Roundup. And him said it is, and him spraying. He said, don't you know that this will kill you? Him said, so them say, but the government say it not going to do them nothing because the government say it's safe. So this is another problem that we have.
Yeah. I don't know what government, because so many people don't have water, so I can't go by anything the government says.
And I see another problem
That's
because,
another whole thing.
It's a whole other kettle of tea, even as we celebrate women today and this month. The thing is that we celebrate women every day, and we should be listening to women when it comes to farming. And not only that, we should be including women in all these conversations that we're having, the decisions we're making on farming. Sister P, I'm so sorry that I'm out of time, but as usual, I want to thank you so much for making the quick, short little time to talk with us. No, we didn't. And it's just because we had an interview at the beginning that wasn't scheduled. And so it pushed out.
That wasn't scheduled.
Yes, so we have.
Anyway, thanks for having me,
Yes.
and I just want to say enough love to the family.
Yes. Thank you, Sister P, and we'll pick up with the discussions
and you keep up your good work.
Yes, thank you so much, and you too, Sister P. All right. We see Asafa Powell in Ghana, dressing up in all kinds of African gears and so on, kente cloth and so on. How are you doing, Asafa? Well, we did say to Asafa Powell that when you go to Ghana, please ensure that you keep in touch with us, and if not, that when you come back, you tell us how it was. And it looks like it's going very well for Asafa in Ghana. Saw some pictures coming from the dungeons. So it seems as if he's gone to the dungeons. You can't go to the dungeons in Ghana and not experience something. So let us see how this has impacted, if in any way, Asafa Powell. We know Popcorn went to the dungeons, and we saw the posts he made from Ghana when he went a few years ago, and we heard what he said and the conversations he's had, and yes, the change in him. So you really can't go to make that kind of a connection and not feel something and do something. We heard that there's a death on the campus, the University of the West Indies. A student was found dead. My condolences to the family, the immediate family, and also the university family of that student. That happened today, actually, at the El Saleh Rani Hall at UWMONA. We understand that students will be offered counseling, and also that the police have said that they do not suspect foul play at this time. But we're following that story, and we will keep you updated on that. The big story in the news, though, has to do with the teachers. And I think for parents and students, tonight is one of a little bit of confusion, because you're not quite sure what will happen tomorrow, because we are seeing in the news, and let me just check my notes, because I know that we're seeing that the JTA has said that they will be writing to the Ministry of Finance outlining what happened today with the vote. We know the teachers have been protesting since Monday, But I think we're hearing that a resolution was also passed at the meeting today for the withdrawal of services, which could lead to a shutdown of schools island-wide tomorrow and Friday. So check with your schools before you send your children off to school. If you're in the WhatsApp group, write to a teacher, find out what's happening before you send your children on the road, because it seems to be a little bit, there's some confusion. Some schools obviously have been opened right through all of the protest. Many schools have been sending children home at 11 o'clock, and they're doing it almost in a kind of a straddling way, so that there is that, all right? Pay attention to what's happening around you, and don't send your children out if you're not sure, or until you're sure. I'm not telling you don't send your children to school. I'm saying until you're sure that the school is going to keep, right? How you doing, my brother Ras Jomo? Sister P. Ras Jomo says to tell you hello. He says you used to drum with your drumming group. How are you? All right, I have in the studio with me my very special guest for the next segment of this program. So let me just give you a little bit more of this, and then I go to my very special guest coming up right after this. Just a minute now, going up to 11 o'clock, and boy, oh boy, oh boy, we love that one.
Yes, yes.
That one that come from, yeah.
Way back a yard.
You feel it, don't it?
Yeah, man, way back a
That's
yard.
serious thing. Actually, you should have seen what's going on in the studio. If I have two things, we get to that spirit in there.
Feel it.
Better than man, some serious energy for that song there. Yeah.
Feeling is believing, you know.
Yeah, man. Yeah. As you got to write
Right.
song for play right here, so
Right this time, at this time.
Yes, sir.
This present moment.
yes. You don't know like Johnny.
Yes,
Job.
Rastafari.
Yeah, you know, we are one of the things. You were in the studio with me last week, Sunday gone, just a few days ago,
Cabo.
and you've come back, and I want to thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am.
Because there's some things happening in Jamaica that we can't dance away, that we can't dance hall away, and we're not against dance hall. I'm just saying there's a lot happening around us that if we're not careful, we're about to lose everything
Truly.
while we are distracted. And so these brethren are the brethren who are defending the land. They're the brethren who are defending the water. Them defending the ocean, them defending the sea, and them defending the sand. Because somebody have to do it. One of the things that's happening now in Jamaica is that the government of Jamaica is engaged in an insidious plan, egregious plan, to take access away from the people. So on the one hand, they're distracting you with all kind of mumbo jumbo in a parliament, while they have their henchmen taking away the access to the land, the access to the sea, the access to the water, the access to the ocean. This is serious, and we're not about to let it happen. There is, and this is happening right across Jamaica. So we're going to be joined on the phone lines with by three special guests, I think, who are going to come on to talk about what's happening in Portland. In the studio, we have you going to talk about what's happening here at Little Duns River in Ocherius. So let me welcome you to the space. Welcome Ricardo Reed. Ricardo, you're in the studio. Give thanks.
Cabo, blessed love.
Welcome forward. Marvin Dunn. Yes, my brother, give thanks. Gashford Miller.
Yes, Sister Cabo.
Yes, Abongo that. And that's in the studio with us, right? Who else do we have?
Clive Ivy.
Clive Ivy.
Yeah,
Give
otherwise
thanks, my
called
brother.
Up.
Yes. and Karen Reed. Give thanks, my sister. And they're from Little Duns River. And on the phone lines from Blue Lagoon, we have the Public Relations Officer of the Portland Environmental Action, Wilburn Carr. Mr. Carr, thank you so much for coming back.
I'm sorry to invite me again.
Also, Damian Coombs, Executive Director of JABEM. Damian, welcome.
Good night, Kabu. Thank you for having me, and good night to your listeners.
Greetings. Is Devon Taylor there? Devon, you there? Dr. Devon Taylor?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, good, good.
You know, blessed love to
Yes.
the family. The
Greetings,
family and
Devon.
finance.
Greetings, Devon. I'm going to start with our guest in studio. I know we've been talking about this a lot, but I want you to just quickly put in perspective for us what the situation is at Little Duns River. So we're going to do it at Little Duns River, then Blue Lagoon, then Little Duns River, then Blue Lagoon.
Yeah.
So what's happening? What is the current situation at Little Duns River? Who's going to take it?
It remained the same under security watch.
All right. So what led to that? Because we're in a different space now. Why is it that it's under security watch? What do we know?
We don't know why, because the government send them there and they are all there every day.
How long now it closed?
6 months. For 6 months they are all there.
What were we told when they were closing it?
Desert was just closing for a time.
For investigation.
They were investigating.
Yes.
They said they were
A
investigating
murder that happened at the roadside and
a
the
shooting,
street, not
yeah.
on the property.
a shooting that happened on the street. And the thing that we must understand is that shooting did
Only
not
because it was
happen.
somebody who was working there.
Yeah, it was somebody who worked at Little Duns River, but the
Yes.
shooting did not happen at Little Duns River. It
Inside,
happened
the outside
on the street, on the public road.
Yeah.
And so they locked it to say they were going to do an investigation.
investigation.
That was how long ago?
6 months, going to 7 months.
And it is still closed.
Still closed.
Have anybody tried to access it? To go there? Nobody?
No, we
No.
don't try.
No one don't have any access to go there because the security will stop them from going in.
There are security guards there.
Yes, day and night.
Who paying the security guards?
God is no.
Private security. Private security. So them not get paid by normal person. Them get paid by a private investor. What I call a private investor.
company?
Yeah.
Yes, it's a private investor.
Yeah.
Because it's private security.
Because it's private security.
It's
Mr.
not
King.
government. It's not government security.
Mr. King Security Company.
Oh, okay. So it's not. It's all right. So we don't know who paying them,
We don't know who paying them.
but it's a private security company.
And since they're there, they collect millions already. So we wonder, or they're collecting millions to just watching trash and
Our
see.
business place.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, what has happened to your business at
Closed down.
Stall.
Closed down, and we cannot access our business for months now. Can you imagine? And nobody giving us no money, nothing at all. They don't ask us how we manage, how our kids go to school, how our bills pay, or anything. You know, these people don't interested in nobody at all. You know, they don't care. You know.
All right, let me just go to Devon. I know you're listening, and this is interesting because you see how it mirrors what's happening at Little Duns at Blue Lagoon. But let me ask Mr. Carr to put in perspective for us, to give us in context, what is the current situation? Sorry, Mr. Carr. Yeah, what's the current situation at Blue Lagoon, and how did we get to where we are?
The Blue Lagoon has been operating for over 28 years under the conditions, present under the conditions before it closed. And then a number of changes happened. First, a wall was built to take away from the visitors the bathroom facilities that they usually use. Those bathroom facilities were there for over 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
That was number one. Number two is a government or interested parties decided that, okay, so now that you don't have bathroom facilities, this place is not sanitary anymore.
Mm-hmm.
However, they didn't close right away. Right. The Blue Lagoon in 2018 was named a national monument. And remember, a monument. It was not named a park. It was named a site, a monument. That means, and a monument to us means that it's a thing that probably can touch, visit, but
Yeah,
not
tangible. Yes.
access
Yes.
in any way, shape, or form. However, the closure came recently because there was a transfer of property from Mr. Leachin to Mr. Adam Stewart. It's the same Blue Lagoon property that's around all the property that's around Blue Lagoon.
Yeah.
That was now being transferred from Mr. Leachin to Mr. Adam Stewart.
Okay, so hang on a sec there. Hold that. Blue Lagoon.
Adam.
Blue Lagoon is we're talking about sea, right? We're talking about water and sand.
Yes.
And so when you say, and it's been named a national monument, etc., is this public property, Blue Lagoon? Does it belong to the people?
Now, in the interpretation they give us now, the Jamaica National Heritage Trust, is that the only property in their that they're responsible for is the water itself.
The water of the Blue Lagoon. And
yes.
nothing around it, including the sand?
Nothing around it, including the sand. As a matter of fact, in the proclamation that was drawn up, I think that this was done with the assistance of the Alligator Head Foundation.
Mm-hmm.
It mentioned high water mark and low water mark.
Mm-hmm.
So depending on where the water marks are,
yes,
even at that stage, probably you could not access the Blue Lagoon at low water mark.
All right, I'm going to come back to that. So the point you're making is that there has been a transfer of ownership in recent times?
Yes.
Of what? Of what?
It's the ownership of the land around the Blue Lagoon.
Including the sand?
Well, there's no sand around the Blue Lagoon. What is there is just Blue Lagoon is a lagoon itself.
Right, but if you go, but Mr. Carr, if you go in, remember when we were standing at the barriers looking over, that was like a little sandy beach?
Right, that's a beach.
Right.
And in truth and in fact, that's a fisherman's beach. It is a beach that was designated a fishing beach by the Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries.
So who owns that beach? I'm confusing myself. So
You're not confusing yourself. The whole thing is a confusion. Because that area that you're talking about, there's a Mr. Smart who has been a part of the Coal Harbor Estate, owns properties in the Coal Harbor Estate. He said that beach belonged to him.
All right. So this is where we're going to need Dr. Devon Taylor. Because this, I know this is sounding very familiar to you, Dr. Taylor, from JABM, because you've been looking at the Beach Management Act. This is very familiar to you, isn't it? And you have been working with Blue Lagoon, the Jamaica Portland Environmental Action to help to sort this out, haven't you?
Yes. So, good night. And it is one crazy confusion because, as Mr. Carr says, there are around 238 acres of land that surround the lagoon in and around there. None of that land is owned by the government of Jamaica. So the government of Jamaica has really sold out all of its land rights, and all it manages within the lagoon is the body of water in the lagoon. Now, when we talk about the beach right now, okay,
yes.
What is defined as the foreshore in Jamaica, which is technically within the Beach Control Act of 1956, is that wet sandy area, is where you have the high water mark when the water rushes up and the water rushes back down.
Yes.
That is classically what is a beach in Jamaica, and that is what is said to be vested in the Crown and is owned by the Jamaica government or the Crown Estate. Now, the Crown Estate is owned by the King of England. Now, I'm not really clear, because Jamaica is not fully sovereign nation, that the Crown land or the Crown Estate of Jamaica belongs to the government of Jamaica, to the people of Jamaica, or to the King of England. So, I'm saying that to say, above the high water mark, when you're on the dry sandy area, it's a gray zone because some of the land titles that people own, and I suspect that some of those land titles along that stretch where the protest was coming down, and you look over and you see the fishing beach over there, some of those land titles extend out into the water because they have been there for a long time. And if they extend beyond those points, then that is the property of the landowner. And the Beach Control Act basically states that, right, any person who owns property adjoining the foreshore, have all the rights to enjoy that space with them and their families. So basically, that their playground. And so the fisher folks there, basically, you know, and I'm not sure if those fisher folks got that space to prescriptive right, or it was just kind of given to them, or it has a landing number. Mr. Carl raised a point that I need to check to see what is the landing designation for the Blue Lagoon Beach, because it should be recorded and we know what that landing is. That defines many of the rights that those fisher folks have in that space. But they shouldn't be able to touch those fisher folks. They should be able to walk through and go into that space and ply their trade.
All right.
The beach and the lagoon are two separate things.
So let me ask you about the road, Mr. Carr. That road, that parish council road that leads to the Blue Lagoon, doesn't it lead directly to the Blue Lagoon?
Yes, and it leads directly, and it's also a part of that proclamation that designated the Blue Lagoon a monument. So that road is protected.
All right, so the road is protected. The road is a parish council road, so it's a public road, right? Public access. It leads directly into the Blue Lagoon, which means that this is a right of way that the people have into the water, which is owned by the government. I'm so sorry.
There are several maps, and I think that I had one that Deborah may have seen. There's a mineral spring to the back of the Blue Lagoon.
Yes.
Right? And there's an understanding that that road does not just end in the lagoon, but it snakes around the edge to the mineral spring. And that is where the public road would end. But that is in dispute now.
All right, hold that. I'm going to take a break and come back. This is some crazy stuff we're listening to. This is how Jamaican people have to be sitting down trying to figure out how you can access the water. Yes. This is what is going on right here in this space. If this is not madness, then I don't know what is. But let me take a quick break. All right, we're back with you inside of the Cutting Edge. My name is Kabu Ma'at Kiru. I'm in for Mutabaruka. Muta will be back next week, Wednesday. We're talking about a very vexing issue here on the island in Jamaica. If you are hearing about this for the first time, please tell somebody. It is worse than it sounds. I know that it sounds really bad, but believe me, multiply that by 5,000 and you still haven't gotten to the point of how bad the situation is on the island. It is the same from Morant Point to Negril Point. In the studio talking about Little Duns River, Ricardo Reed is our vendors at Little Duns River, Marvin Dunn. Gosford Miller is a founder of the Duns River Benevolent Society. Clive Ivy, Karen Reed. On the phone lines, Public Relations Officer of the Portland Environmental Action, Wilburn Carr, Executive Director JABEM, Damien Coombs, and Executive Director at JABEM, Founding Director Dr. Devon Taylor. We're trying to figure out the ownership, of the Blue Lagoon. But before we go into more of that, I think it's the very same problem that we are facing, or a very similar problem at Little Duns River, who said same thing. Yes, my brother, talk about that, because you're the founder. You are the founder of the Benevolent Society.
Yes, but because it's the same thing. The same thing that happened to Portland Tona, it looks like the same thing going to happen to Little Duns River. Yes, it's a sellout, sabotage for the people. How can you sabotage the people of a country like that?
Who are they telling? Have you haven't heard anything? So who owns Little Duns River as far as you know?
Well, as far as I know, it's the same owner like a Blue Lagoon.
Owned by the people. Little Duns River, owned by the people of Jamaica. It's a public beach. It's for the people of Jamaica.
But it's locked under the sign that says private. The sign says private property.
Yeah, but all of these years, the government know that we are there. They was planning to develop the place with us and set the place in a proper manner for with them. Didn't come, so we do it on our own. We spend our own money. We develop a lot of things down there step and set the place where people can come and enjoy themselves and have a good time. And all of a sudden, them just come in and just lock it down. You know, they're all over the globe that Little Duns River is a public beach. It is for the people of Jamaica.
But you see the point I'm trying to raise.
We don't get no support from the government.
I want to ask a question. It's locked. There are chains on the gate, security guards, and there's a sign there.
Private sign also.
What the sign say?
Private property.
It says UDC, no trespassing, no dumping. That sign can be used anywhere. It never state like Little Duns River must be closed and all these things. So that sign can be a fraud because you can use that sign anywhere.
Yes.
Anywhere.
Okay, so
it's a fraud.
Yes, go ahead.
We need to march and open the gate very soon because we have nowhere to swim. When I travel from Discovery Bay, come right down the line, all of the beaches are closed, you know. Yeah, so I mean, and that can't work none at all, you know.
I want our listeners to understand that what you just said is not a lie. This is exactly what it is. All of the beaches are, most of them are. It's not that they're closed, but
no
that
beaches are. We have nowhere to swim.
Access.
We have no river to go, no beaches to go.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And that's bad for the people. And it's, you know what I mean? At time in Jamaica, all the while, and we have nowhere to swim, nowhere to go. Whoever go, somebody say, I them who own here, so you can't walk, so you can't go through there, so.
So can I raise a quick point?
Yes, go ahead, Devon. Go ahead.
So may I go talk to my brother them from Little Duns River?
Yes.
Because Jabem is about actions, you know. We will kind of talk about these things, but we about actions.
Yes.
And what Jabem has done so far, there is a law on the books, right? Called the Prescription Act. And the Prescription Act is a law from 1882. It's from way back in them days there when we did catch L. Nonetheless, the law basically says that if you have been using a space, using a truck, going down on a beach, using a local roadway, getting on a beach for a minimum of 20 years, you can go into the court and seek the court's recognition for you to continue to use that space. So I'm going to ask the brethren them, have you been using that space for more than 20 years?
Yes, man, we've been almost 30 years.
Alright, so then so my question to you, I mean, let's take it into the courts. So yes, use legislation because we're advocating for it to be open. We sit down to 6 months, then brethren then now move, and we're tired. We're tired to wait. We're tired to sit down.
That's right.
The Jamaican people then continue to sit down. Everybody are going to get up one day and realize that we don't have nowhere to go. And then we don't have nobody to blame but ourselves.
True, man.
And we can tell you one thing, them brethren there, they're going to sit down where them sit down right now, and they must sip them champagne, and they must laugh, and I say, look on them how them docile. Look how them quiet. We take away them thing, lock them gate, and them not do nothing about it. Look at it. Even legislation did it for them use, and them not even use it. So that we have to rise up.
What do we need? What do we need? How do we
use it?
Oh, brilliant, and this is a good point that is being raised here. What do we need now? Because I see where Jabem spearheaded that with the Bob Marley Beach, and there's an injunction where the people on the Bob Marley Beach the court ruled that they should remain, and there's an injunction. I suppose that is an ongoing situation. There's also that we spent how many, 3 decades or 2 decades fighting for Winifred Beach, and that also went through the court. That was a similar situation. So what do we need in this case, Dr. Taylor? What do the brethren and sisterins who used Little Duns River for all these years and are now being locked out, how do they move from here in terms of taking it through the courts?
All right, so you're going to give them my information, and I need 5 of them.
All right. Well,
we'll get an attorney. We already have an attorney lined up. We can really deal with the case. So we need 5.
Are you willing to take this to court under the guidance of?
Yes, I. Yes.
All right. I want you from other brethren. We don't want. We don't
Yes,
just
yes.
know, you know.
Yes, sister.
Yes.
Yes, Cabo.
This is what we really need to...
Speak in the microphone for me, because we don't hear you too well. Say that again.
Yes, this is what we really need to know what's going on, for nobody talking to us, right? We don't see nobody represent us, nobody doing nothing. On the action we did have we get together, we didn't want to do it like that and get lock them off of the gate. We didn't want to do it like that. So we're happy and we're glad to know now we have somebody can represent us to the court, so we're ready.
All right.
By the law,
All right. So I'll give you Dr. Taylor information.
Yes.
Just down the road, Mammoth Bay Beach, right, where there were several protests over that beach. We also have that case in the courts. All right, we have Bob Marley case lined up for prescriptive law in the courts. Let's had Little Duns River. We're bringing them Wally Christoph down in Bluefield. have that case in the courts also. It's happening across the island. We see that Discovery Bay. I mean, it's not an isolated event. We would have said this is an isolated event, but let's not sleep. Them not sleep. They're going to take it all from us because there's a massive commercialization across the country, and it says that Jamaicans and foreigners cannot exist in the same space. Them say it's mutually exclusive. So if we are not anti-development, we're not against tourism, all right? But what they're saying is that tourism cannot survive with Jamaican people. Most of us can't build on the beach together. And when we understand it, tourists come to Jamaica, not the politicians and not the rich people that come to really bask in the Jamaican culture.
And one of the things that we need, Dr. Taylor, is for the tourists who love Jamaica, who keep coming time and time again, is for them to go back to the spaces which they occupy, to speak to their own media, to write to the newspapers there, to talk about what is happening on the island in Jamaica, because that will also help to bring international attention to this situation. The Blue Lagoon, Mr. Carr, is an iconic spot. Let our listeners know, when we talk about the Blue Lagoon, we're talking about a whole lagoon that an entire movie was named so, right?
Of course, and there have been several movies, even the recent James Bond movie that is not yet published. That was also part of it, was filmed in the Blue Lagoon. We're coming back from the days 1959 or thereabouts when aeroplane came to Jamaica. And when he came to Portland, he said that Portland was the most beautiful woman that he had ever seen. And that included the Blue Lagoon.
And that started I think
that brought some attention to the Blue Lagoon. And let me make one more point here.
Yes.
All this land around the Blue Lagoon is protected land.
Meaning?
All the land is protected. The trees are protected. No tree can be cut in that area around the Blue Lagoon because it's a part of the ecology of the whole Blue Lagoon. This is why the Blue Lagoon is so beautiful. So therefore, even with these private owners, they cannot do very much with that land. And it's either going to be by consent or through the courts. And even before that, the Commission of Lands, the Lands Department, and we have other government agencies who can determine that the land around Blue Lagoon is so important that it should be made into a national park. So this all that needs to be done here is for this to be packaged in such a way that we go back to the days when, and I know the lands of the Blue Lagoon were public land because there are steps from the main road. Years and years ago, there were steps built from the main road down to the Blue Lagoon, enabling people to access that mineral spring there. So,
Mr. Carr, yes, I have a question for you.
Please write it down so you don't forget. A Cutting Edge. My name is Cabo. I'm in for Muta. Muta will be back next week talking about Little Duns River, talking about the Blue Lagoon, but talking about so many other spaces, land, sea, and water that has been commandeered, stolen, hijacked by under a neoliberal agenda by the government of Jamaica, the King of England, because this is what it is all working out to be, the Crown, the state, the business class, the private sector. This is more than an ordinary thing. It seems as if it is well planned, well orchestrated, and it is underway. Dr. Taylor, you wanted to ask a question of Mr. Carr.
Yes, I'm going to ask Mr. Carr a question. I'm going to ask Damien to really comment on some of the mobilization stuff on the work, on the ground that Jabem is doing, as well as that neoliberal agenda that you just cited. Mr. Carr, so one of the things that the Jamaica National Heritage Trust is saying that, why the lagoon cannot be open is that they need land to construct bathroom and administrative office on. Now, if all of their spaces down there is protected and nobody is giving them any property to really construct this on, and you're mentioning that the lands around here are protected, under, protected status. Where down there, do you think they're looking at to build, this facility, when we know facility is already there and all they do is tear down the wall? Where are they looking to build these things? Is there other properties on the other side? I need to really also understand this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What's coming out, what we last heard from the National Heritage Trust is that they are looking for properties on the adjoining lands from Tropical Lagoon. That Tropical Lagoon, as we know it, is the only private property in that area that comes down to the lagoon. However, Tropical Lagoon is still restricted by the same law that protects what were public lands that surround the Blue Lagoon, right? Tropical Lagoon cannot just cut down trees and build anything that they want. They have to go to NEPA. They have to submit those plans to NEPA, and NEPA has to approve. Tropical Lagoon wanted to make some stairs from their villas down to the Blue Lagoon, and those plans had to be approved by NEPA. They couldn't cut down one tree, right? So therefore, what we have here is lands that are purportedly in private hands, but they cannot do anything with it. So it and I said my conscience earlier, right? They could very hand this land over back to the National Heritage Trust for them to carry out the business of building a national park that will last forever and ever. Or they can just hold on to the land. It's their property. And there are places where private owners have lands in parks.
Yes.
But it's a park.
Get so much land.
All right.
It's
So
for the public use.
it's there for the, all right. So you have a public road. You have the water that is owned by we the people, because it's the water at least is owned by the government. Devon, we can access this by air. It seems as if that's the only place to access the Blue Lagoon because they have commandeered the road. They blocked off the road when we went there the other day. So it seems as if we have to come from the air to access the Blue Lagoon. Now, let me ask this, because you mentioned, so Damien Coombs is there. Damien, you were on the march arranged, organized by the Portland Environmental Action. You spoke passionately, and Devon raised this, about how this all fits into a broader picture, which I concur, which is the neoliberal agenda. Why should we be very, very concerned, if not afraid, about how this is being rolled out?
Yes, thank you, Kabu. And good night again to your audience and all our guests. We have to be concerned because if you notice, we're all intelligent people trying to define something which is purposely difficult, if not impossible, to define from basic or from general or agreed upon intelligence standards. Meaning that we're all intelligent people, but our basic knowledge or general knowledge cannot be used to define this, because the information is purposefully obtuse, and the relation, the configurations of the laws and normal operations of government and private interests, as well as civil concerns, are purposefully obscured. And that is why we spend probably the first 15 minutes trying to figure out who owns what and what is what. Right? And the reason why we have to think about this in the larger frame of neoliberalism is because I'm sitting here and I'm a designer of the beach management, the beach access and management policy document. And it's the very first line and paragraph in the executive summary is a neoliberal wet dream. And neoliberalism is basically the latest iteration of what many people call a New World Order, or the World Economic Forum, or as many people call it now, Davos. because that is city where these ideas are really promulgated, maybe not planned, but promulgated and put onto the world and said this is the way going forward. And as we've seen since 1980, especially in this part of the world, it has really taken a step. And sorry, I'm not trying to use, I'm trying to rush just to get to where we are so we can have that structural frame, that there is a framework of why this government is doing this and why we are thinking they're operating the way they are. Because neoliberalism is basically about making everything saleable. Everything in your country should be saleable and managed by...
It is this idea of free market. It's the idea of free market. And we heard it under Edward Seaga back in the early days, started by Margaret Thatcher and Ronald Reagan, but now we see it, Jamaica actively engaged in this neoliberal project. But the thing about this free market is that we hear the same very term coming from the Minister of Industry and Commerce in reference to what's happening with the ganja. Do you understand? Exactly. So it is all connected.
And I've heard this man who was the minister and Ronald Reagan, and almost making him a he calling, and he just got shot of calling him a hero.
Yeah.
So I don't want to bore your audience with anything, but we have to understand where these ideas are coming from. So the beach, things like beach and own, because, and we also using terms which we are wrapping ourselves in their frame. Because I know time that it's tonight, but I hope going forward we change the language that we're using, because the language affects our consciousness.
Talk to us about that.
Consciousness is affected, then our content will not be straight.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
And we should be using the term common ownership instead of access. Access is contingent upon, it is contingent and it's precarious, right? The first line of the executive summary of the Jamaica that this policy document reads, in Jamaican common law, there is no right of access to the foreshore by the public except to pass over it or for the purpose of navigation or fishing. Just look at that. There is explicitly saying a little bit less humanity in context of beach access.
Yes.
And you were saying, you and Devon were saying how to access it. We're not avian. We're not aquatic. We're terrestrial animals. And the roads that are available, for example, at the Blue Lagoon, the road that is there is blocked out. So how is that there we supposed to access these things?
Well, that's the question, and Mr. Carr, I'm going to come back to you. Hopefully, we can come back to you a little bit more on this, David. But Mr. Carr, this is why the peaceful protest was planned, because I know through the eyes of the Portland Environmental Action and others who joined in the march, including myself, that protest, we could not envision that the police would be there heavily armed, locking us out of a peaceful protest, women, children, and men, peaceful protesters.
And at that point, at the drop-off point where the police were, there was not one sign saying why the beach was closed. It didn't say that there was no sign that said it be closed for construction. It did not say that it was closed for environmental reasons. There was no sign that defined or says to the public, well, we are stopping you here because if you go beyond this, there's danger down there. Right? Okay, it was just barriers manned by police. And I have to say, I know police carry guns and all of that. But if they had the armor there,
yes,
we went there and we went to the police first and told them we were going to protest. And they said, well, we don't give permission to protest, but by nature of protest, we're going to be around. I said, well, we want you to protect us from what's going on, because we don't know why they're blocking us, right? And we might go there and they attack us. But the police didn't do that. They came there and stopped us right here. They didn't tell us why. A police officer, inspector, there's a sign that was posted around the whole place on his phone. That was his authority. There was nothing signed by the mayor. There was nothing signed by the CEO of the Parish Council. There was nothing signed by the Department of Health. There was nothing signed by any authority, JNHD or any authority saying, well, this is why you can't go there. This was a strong, heavy-handed, and government channels operate like this?
Modern day South Africa.
It's an apartheid state.
Which
Yeah,
channels
that's what
operate
going
like
on.
this?
Cannot work.
That government and their agencies have now become a border between civil, the things that we can access or get to in a civil way. And when they do this, you wonder why sometimes people react the way they do.
And this takes us to the point that that Damien is raising, Damien Coombs, about this coalition between the state, between the middle and the elite classes, and the business class.
Yeah.
But where does this go, Damien? This the only way I think is for this to implode. What are you seeing? What are you? I mean, you have been looking at this through the lenses of neoliberalism.
Well, if we can look at, all right, it's interesting that somebody said forgive me for not picking up the name, in your studio said something about South Africa.
Yes,
because
I was Clive. Was it Clive? Yes.
this is just simply a soft embrace of an apartheid way of doing business. I mean, we might not be beaten in the street by the police, at least right now, but the access and it's so sad that we have to be using the word access as people, because to me, using the word access in the land that I belong to and looking at public treasures, which by the way are expressed not as public treasures in this terrible document, it's called assets. And assets go on the balance sheet, and assets are for business and trade. Treasures are for ownership.
Well, listen, that's not the worst of it. Didn't you hear one of the ministers the other day, I think it was the Minister of Tourism, referring to the people as commodities? Did that miss you? We were referred to as commodities.
He's a sellout. The Minister of Tourism is a sellout. He's a sellout. He's only for the big people and the rich. He's not for the small man.
So this is where we are. So where do we go from here, Dr. Devon Taylor? Because listen, we have just 5 minutes left in this segment of the program. At 12 o'clock, I want to open the phone lines and have our listeners call in. But hang on a sec. Where do we, Devon? What you say through the courts? Do we have multiple strands? Do we attack this from all the various moving parts, or is there just one way to get to this, which is through the courts?
There are several ways to get to this, and there are some strategies that we have to employ and use. In the immediacy, which is right now, all right, is advocacy, like what we're doing right now, bringing awareness to the country, mobilize the country.
The informative information presented in this video is motivational and is positively aimed at inspiring, educating and entertaining the viewers with the cutting edge of critical reasoning. If you enjoy the contents on the Black Radar YouTube channel, please consider subscribing to show your support.